Well, thank you everybody for coming to Aspects of Energy today, a series that teaches us how to raise our energy. Today we have Michael DiMuccio, and with a degree in aerospace engineering, Michael was also a recording musician and an electrician. He ended up in the wellness industry and has been awarded Consultant of the Year in his business. But he says that the best award of all is living an extraordinary life. And that includes 3 children that I have to say are pretty extraordinary also. Michael has been mentored by some of the best in the business. And now I believe he has become one of the best thought thinkers, energy thinkers in the business. And so this forum, Michael, is just open that you can tell us about anything you'd like to. And his topic today is the law of everything. So I'll hand it to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for doing this. I think it's great that you're contributing to people's awareness, and awareness is the key to everything, the key to changing anyone's life. So I have a PowerPoint that I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to kind of rifle through it because there's a lot of ideas here that I want to be able to get through for you. So you should see on your screen now. Great, you do see it. Okay, excellent. Well, as you can see, it's called the law of everything. Now, it used to be called the law of attraction, but that was because most people are familiar with that term, not because it's actually accurate. And so I wanted to teach what I think is more precise an understanding. And why I call it the law of everything is because everything we experience in life, and I mean everything, is a consequence of this law. And when we are unaware of this law, then we think that things are just happening to us. Circumstances are just happening to us, or life is just happening, or that's just one of those things. And we start making references to things like luck. This person was lucky, that person was unlucky. We start inventing all kinds of ideas because we don't seem to have any idea ourselves as to what's actually controlling everything. We even believe it's fated. Some people are ill-fated. Some people are, again, lucky. So it's the absence of understanding of this law that has caused the majority of the population to fall asleep. And I mean the majority. Over 95% of the population are still asleep, quite asleep, and not aware that everything that's happening in their life, to the very details of their body, is a consequence of this law that's happening and working with them, that they are in fact the conductor of what's taking place. And so let me just give you some ideas to think about. We saw a round globe on that first slide, but let me ask you, which world do you live in? The one that's flat or the one that's round? Now, you might obviously have an answer that it's round, but if I had asked this question maybe 1,000 years ago, you would have had a very different opinion. Now, based on your opinion, or what you believe to be true and what was perceived by the populace as true, we operate according to our beliefs. So we then create an outcome in our life. We would never have conceived of the things that people can conceive of in a world that's round. For instance, we can travel around the world. That's something you wouldn't have thought of doing. People were afraid to fall over the edge. We could never have conceived of sending something into orbit. That would not have been a concept that we could have entertained because our belief system wouldn't have seen it, wouldn't have imagined it. And therefore we would have no satellites in space and no telecommunications, etc. In other words, what we believe to be true is just that, what we believe to be true, but it's not necessarily the truth. And that applies to everything, and hence the law of everything. What you believe to be true is nothing but a gatekeeper to possibilities that you can entertain and experience. And we're talking about things like happiness, health, wealth. So what if the beliefs that you're holding, not what if this is in fact true, then it is your beliefs that you're holding, whether you're aware of them or not. are what has given you your current level of happiness, your current level of health, and your current level of prosperity. And so if we want to see different results in our life in the way of these three major areas of life, then what must we identify? What must we change or shift? Of course, what we believe to be true. Now, here's another example of how what we believe to be true, or the things that we think, can affect reality. These are images that were created by a scientist who was doing research on the memory of water, Dr. Emoto from Japan. What he was able to show was that if you take water and you subject the water to sound vibrations, such as a voice or music, or words, even just the spoken word, or the actual word written on the outside of the glass that contain the water, because words, how we comprise a word, is a very complex structure of letters that give intention or meaning to that formation. And so essentially, you can cause the water to respond to this frequency. And when the water is subjected to these different words or ideas, even thoughts, without speaking them, were able to be measured and demonstrated. And physically demonstrated, it would alter the way the water would show up in terms of an ice when it was frozen. And so if it's true that thoughts are things, and these energies affect the physical world we're living in, consider the fact that you're 70% water. So what are the thoughts that you're thinking on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a moment-to-moment basis? How are they affecting, through frequency and vibration, the molecules of water in your body? When you're thinking about somebody else, remember, these are thoughts that were being thought on a glass of water outside of this human being. So when you're thinking of another human being who is largely water, how are your thoughts, in fact, affecting them vibrationally? So thoughts are things. They're measurable, it's tangible, and we can see physical evidence that a thought is an energy form that actually creates an impression on the physical world. Well, this energy through which thoughts are created, through which all things are created, all matter that's created, looks pretty much the same when you look at it under a certain scope. This is showing us, the Carillion photography is showing us that there is energy, even in a key, which appears to be inanimate, but it's not. Because what we see is everything is energy, everything is emanating energy. And so if everything is energy and everything is emanating energy, we know also that vibration is part of this energy field. All things vibrate, nothing remains static. But through and through, this energy looks pretty much the same. In other words, what compromises, or what comprises anything, specifically a leaf or a key or a person, is not just the fact that it's energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. Therefore, it's the frequency of the energy that distinguishes one from the other. And so all things are comprised of an energy field, or energy, and there's only one source of all energy, since energy cannot be created or destroyed. And the distinction between a thing and another thing is merely its frequency of vibration. Now, there's some great reads if you're interested. The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart, also The Field by Lynn McTaggart. I've met Lynn McTaggart. I've listened to many of her lectures, and you can find them online. Fascinating research that she's done in this area. The Hidden Messages of Water, Dr. Masaru Emoto. But essentially, let me boil it down to the simplest of ideas. This law of everything works like this. Intention plus mechanism creates a result. So for instance, intention is thought that's energized. Mechanism, of course, there's the mechanism. For instance, let's say you want to get in a car and drive across town. Now, let's say you get in the car and you go ahead and drive across town. So now the result is you're now at another location. Had you not had the car, could you have gotten to that other location?
Yes.
Yes. You could have rode on a bicycle. You could have walked or jogged. You could have ridden on a horse. There's so many ways, an infinite number of paths and ways or mechanisms, if you will, to achieve the result. But if you did not have the intention to be on the other side of town, would all the mechanisms in the world have helped you?
No.
No. So the real law is that intention equals results. The intention, it was Wernher von Braun that was with John F. Kennedy, and he was in charge of the space program at the beginning of the inception of the space program when they set the goal to go to the moon. And Kennedy asked him, what will it take to put a man on the moon? And less than 10 seconds later, von Braun said, the will to do it. In other words, they would figure out the mechanism. And of course, we know they did. But had they not had the intent to do it, it wouldn't matter. In other words, the only thing that matters is the intent. And as we've seen, thought energy that's energized has an effect on the physical world around us, even without us being aware of it. So what does this have to do with our lives and changing the situation in our lives? It's really simple. Right now, let's say the A line down here on the left-hand side represents your current results. And that's the frequency that you're on. Now, all the lines above that are just other frequencies. We could be talking about radio stations. Right now, you're tuned into a particular channel, and there are so many other channels on the radio bandwidth that you could tune in. And as soon as you tune into another channel, you stop hearing the first one and you start hearing the second one. And that's frequency. If I picked up my phone right now and I was able to call any one of you because I had your number, would everybody's phone ring or would just that one person's phone ring? It would be just that one person's phone ring because my phone and their phone were on the same frequency and yours wasn't. So that's how it works. Frequency is what connects all things. And so all things that are in harmony with that frequency. Let me give you another example. I strum a guitar. Now, if I have a perfectly tuned guitar and I strum that guitar, and sitting right next to this guitar is another perfectly tuned guitar, what would happen to that guitar that was just standing right next to the first guitar that I strummed? You would start to hear that guitar vibrate. You would start to hear the same strum coming from that other guitar. That harmonic resonance is the law of everything. It is the law of everything. Everything has frequency. Everything is energy. And all things that are in harmony with each other vibrate together. So, and like the thoughts that go into the water, the strum that goes into the guitar has an effect on something that is able to receive that information, that's in harmony with that information. So if your current results are comprised of the composite of thoughts that you're hosting, whether these thoughts are conscious or unconscious, and we can tell you right now, the majority of them are unconscious. About 95% of the time, our thoughts are happening without us thinking about it. And in some cases, that's really good, like our body. You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about your heart beating. Can you imagine if you had to think about that to make it happen? So there are some things that are happening without us having to think about it that allow us to actually function. But there's a lot of thoughts that were absorbed into our consciousness when we were children growing up, affecting our current results that we may not be conscious of around money, about health, wealth, etc., and even about happiness. So now, what we want is, let's say we want to change our results. Well, what do we need to do? We need to move to that C line. The C line is your thoughts, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your vibration operating on a different frequency. So we set a goal. The key is setting a goal. A goal is a date with destiny. And the goal is not about whether you achieve it or not. It's about the person you have to become to achieve it. That's what my mentor taught me. So I would have to become a person that's in harmony with the person on the sea line in order to achieve the goal. I can't achieve the goal if I remain the person on the A line. So the reason we even set a goal is so that we can become a better person. And the only reason you're alive is to become a better person. And if you're not doing that, you're dead. Your heart hasn't figured it out yet, but for the most part, you're dead. You're dead to yourself, you're dead to the world, you're dead to people around you because you're not improving yourself. Spirit, that which is informing you to even be in existence, the energy flowing into your body is flowing into your body and it's ever seeking expansion. And if it's no longer able to expand through you, you then begin the process of disintegration. So you're either expanding in awareness or you're collapsing. And some people think age has something to do with it. That's the big lie. See, that's the flat earth versus the round earth. Somebody taught you to believe that how old you are determines whether you're here and able to produce, give productivity out to the world. Age has nothing to do with it. My mentor is going to be 87 in July. He's more effective today than all the years I've known him. So I can assure you that age has absolutely nothing to do with it unless you believe it does. At which point, as we know what beliefs are the gatekeeper of your possibilities. So the one thing you want to start learning how to do immediately, regardless of age, is start rejecting ideas that are not in harmony with what you want to experience, the C, the goal. Things that are not in harmony with that are thoughts you can't entertain anymore if you're going to move from where you are to where you want to be. So then what do we entertain? Thoughts that are in harmony with that objective. Well, what if you've never experienced it before? Would you even have those thoughts? Well, probably not, but maybe you read about it, or maybe you know somebody who has them, or maybe you're working with somebody who's coaching you who has them. Whatever you can do to introduce those thoughts and ideas into your consciousness, into your awareness, is critical for this progress. But none of this matters, none of it, unless you make a decision to move forward. Now, most people, what's the decision they make? Well, let me try. I'll try and improve a little bit. And that's the B line. We try something that's marginally an improvement. And so the problem with that is that it requires thoughts, and thoughts that maybe we can entertain and maybe we can imagine, but those thoughts are not necessarily in harmony with what it is that we really want. So it takes an enormous amount of energy to keep your mind focused on those things because they're not really things you want. And that's why people fail 9 out of 10 times. They never move past the A line because they're thinking from the person in the A line to be the B person. They never get the help. They never attract the right mindset and so forth because it's not really in their heart to do so. They're really not committed to the outcome. So what we need is a committed decision. We need to really commit to it. The whole concept of intent. You know, you're not going to get across the city unless you make a decision to get across the city. How you're going to get there, you can figure out after you've made a decision to do it. The how doesn't decide for you. You decide, and the how comes in line once you've made the decision. And that's another factor. Most people fail in making the decision because they think they need to know how to get there. Well, if you've never been there, you don't know how to get there. So you can't get there until you make the decision, and then you can attract the elements, the people, the circumstances that will help you get there. So the decision comes first. And failing to make that decision, that intention, all the mechanisms in the world won't help. So we need to make the decision. To do what? To go after what we want, because that's where our heart is. Our heart, the feeling within us, the desire within us is God seeking expression. It's spirit seeking expression through you to be manifest. And so that gives you the want. That gives you the desire that pops into your conscious mind. It's a lot easier to think about the things that you really, really want than to think about the things that you don't want. But what do most people actually do? They think about the things that they don't want because they operate from fear. What if this doesn't happen? Fear. What if? Doubt. all those beliefs that were programmed into you and continually programmed into you. If you watch anything on the news, anything on television, you're being programmed. That's why they call it programs. Question is, what are they programming you to think about, to feel? Most of the time, fear, anxiety, depression. These are the results of hosting thoughts that are inconsistent with your heart's desire. So the answer is really simple. Figure out what your heart desires and start thinking those thoughts as if you were that person. Start thinking and acting like that person and get some help. There are people who will support you becoming this version of yourself. We call that a coach, or we call that a mentor, or people you really, really trust. But don't give this up to people who say they have your best interest in heart, but the first thing they start doing is telling you why you shouldn't or why you can't. These are not the people that you need to be listening to. And by the way, sometimes you will lose some people in your life as a consequence of becoming better, because they don't want to change and they don't want you to change, because that's change to them. So if you want more out of life, don't worry about what other people think, because most of the people don't think. They are just simply reacting to their current circumstances. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I think that's at least 15, maybe 20 minutes. I could go on, but it's sufficient. So figure out what you love. Start to think about what it feels like to live that way, to have that thing, those circumstances. Write those ideas down, because you know what it feels like. You know what the thoughts would be, and then support that with the surrounding yourself with ideas and people who can support that thinking. And if you've never been there, that's okay. How to get there, that's okay. You will begin to draw to yourself like those two guitars. Once you strum, there's another one waiting to harmonize with you. And you will start to actually see people come into your life and circumstances come into your life that are in harmony with those thoughts. So it's the law of everything. Every experience you're having, every physical condition you're experiencing is a consequence of you thinking and feeling, whether you're conscious of it or not. So bringing things to your awareness is very important. Now, just one little thing about Nikken, since the context for most of this is Nikken, and I've been in Nikken for 29 years. Every day that I choose to drink Pai Mag water is a choice I'm making to reinforce my health. It's a conscious choice I'm making, and now I do it second nature. The choices that I make to support my condition in my mind is what creates the health. So make better choices about things like how you sleep, how you eat, what you drink, and so forth. All you're saying to yourself is, I choose this condition. I think this way. And what you think about, what you feel about, and how you act as a consequence will create the reality.
Well, that is super. Thank you, Michael. I haven't been looking in the chat here. Does anyone have, there's nothing. Does anybody want to speak up, have any thoughts or questions? I think we're all just thinking about how we can implement this and how we can become more, how we can get our thoughts going to that higher frequency.
What happens when you think about setting a goal? What's the first thing that happens? You all know.
Can't do it.
The paradigm, the belief system shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The past version of you or the present version of you shows up and says, oh no, that's up there. We're down here. Remember us? We're over here. We're not that, we're here. So it's the first thing that's going to show up. First thing, the gates of hell open up. So what does Jesus say? Get thee behind me, Satan. In other words, I don't recognize you. So when you hear the thought, reject the thought. That's the one thing you have as a human being, the faculty to actually decide what you want to think. And you can actually reject your own thoughts because most of the thoughts are not even yours. You just simply absorbed them growing up, adopted them growing up through life. Now is the time to become discerning of your thoughts. And you can choose, no, that was who I was. That is not who I am today.
Do you know, I have an example of that. I was at Sam's Club one time, and these two really very large women who were dressed in short shorts, you know, were coming out. And remember, I had just been in Sam's Club. I was in my car waiting to leave. I looked at them and my mind said, well, people like that would be at Sam's Club. And then I stopped and I thought, wait a minute, why did I think of that? And you know what? I was just at Sam's Club. And I realized that I had grown up with a paradigm of my mother's that how you look is very, very important. And on a certain level, it is. You know, it's nice to look nice and not sloppy. But, you know, but that paradigm had gone over where I just created this judgment on these two women that I don't know at all. So that was, you know, that was good to have that brought up to my mind.
That's an important point. When you're judging others, you're actually projecting your own self-image and the things that you're harboring quietly in the background. So that's why if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all, is a really good strategy. If you consider it a strategy, if you think about it, it's like, wait a minute, I need to start being on guard about what I'm allowing myself to think. And those thoughts are causing me to feel. Frequency is the conscious awareness of your vibration. So when you feel something, you're actually being alerted to your frequency. What you're feeling is your conscious awareness of your frequency, of your vibration. Well, we all know what it feels like to have a good vibration, and we all know how it feels to not have a good vibration. And so become aware of how you're feeling and the thoughts that are driving that feeling, and you become a conscious creator. And that is our goal in life. Our purpose in life is to be conscious co-creators. We've been given the gift in the likeness and image we were born to create. The question is, what are we creating? Are we creating good or are we creating negative? Because it's non-judgmental whether you're creating positive or negative to the infinite. It's your choice.
All right. Just like Gita and Barbara said in the chat, you keep opening my mind. Reinforcement to be with like-minded people and enjoy life. A simple step to making changes, but we must believe it can be done and raise our vibration. This is super. Something that in our own way, we need to be thinking every day of little things that we can do to raise it. So thank you.
And you use the tools, reading, listening to powerful messages from videos and mentors and so forth. Those are very, very powerful tools that will help you. That's why I think it's critical that you need the outside help to stay on focus, to stay focused. So reading a few pages a day, listening to somebody, just if that's what I became a voracious consumer of books. I have a library that you wouldn't believe, because it was the only thing that fed me, what sustained my soul. Everything else was just waste of time.
Nice. Thank you so much. That was really kind of you and really wonderful to all be together in this little forum. And next week will be Annalyn Osborne, who's going to talk about tapping. I know it's something that Barbara Bertucci often uses, and that's a fun thing. The week after that, Michael's daughter is going to be on, Sophia. She has a platform called the Mind Palace, and she is wonderful because she's been trained by Michael. And the week after
she's
that,
beyond me. She's gone beyond me.
she is pretty amazing. On the 12th of March, it's going to be Randy Rolfe talking about the magic of magnetism. And she has some amazing thoughts about that she's come up with because of their farm. And the week after that is going to be Ted Aloisio.
Wow, you got quite a lineup.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, they're super, super, super.
Well, it's in my schedule, so I'm going to be on.
Okay. Well, I will be too. Well,
Elaine, can I make a comment?
please go ahead, Emily.
I have been taking the I Can class that's offered through NECAN, but anyone can take it. And this just fits with what I've learned there so well and reinforces it and kind of comes at it from a slightly different angle. It's great. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good rest of your Friday and be energized, and remember to go out and find someone to smile with, because that will raise your energy and it will raise theirs. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine. Bye-bye.